partners, Intel obviously, and we're going to be talking about bringing the memory revolution to your intelligent enterprise. The people who clap the longest and the loudest one gets the rest of the tickets. Please welcome to the stage Tim Allen, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. So I can see you don't like Justin Bieber. It's a good thing I got out of show business when my TV show was canceled this year. So I'm going to talk about Intel Optane DC persistent memory. It's not as slick as these guys' presentation, but I promise it's going to be fast. The memory and my talk. We're done? Almost. So anybody's boss or themselves went to Sapphire last year or this year? So last year we had our president Diane Bryant on stage with Bert Lukart talking about Intel Optane DC persistent memory. They did a live demo. This year, anyone heard of Hasso-Plattner? Okay, everyone's heard. So Hasso-Plattner said one of the top 5 innovations for HANA data management suite this year is Intel Optane DC persistent memory. And he showed a proof point. I'll show that proof point here in a minute. But if we go back to last year, we released our newest processor, the Platinum processor, that delivers for analytics up to 50% performance gain. So that's according to the BW4 HANA. You go to saphana.com and looks at benchmarks, you can see the data there. Specifically compared to a 4-year-old system, we also offer up to 6x on HP in terms of analytics, so more memory support. So when you're in your HANA database, you don't want to run out of memory, right? So you buy a bigger system, or you buy a newer system in this case. So I sit on an engineering team, and our engineering team, actually Hasso and his team came to Intel about 10 years ago when we came up with multi-core. Now everybody knows about multi-core, it's been there a long time, right? And that was because we're pushing the actual physics limitations of cranking up the speed higher, so we moved did this right turn and went to core. And Hasso and his team came to our execs and our architects and say, we want to build an in-memory database. Can you give us the performance and the roadmap to make this in-memory database blazingly fast? And since that day, we've had engineers that sit at Waldorf that we've co-innovated with SAP. We've had different instructions. About 3 years ago, we came up with TSX that sped up transactions about 500%. And next year, early next year, we're going to release our newest technology that plays right into SAP HANA's in-memory database, and I'll show you here in a minute why. So beyond in-memory and Intel Optane DC persistent memory, we do work in IoT, and we're also doing enabling work on machine learning and blockchain, and there's several demos in Intel booth that talk about these different areas. So HANA 2.3 has been out since April. I'm pleased to say that the largest industry database, HANA, now officially supports Intel Optane DC persistent memory. Now we just have to ship the product, right? To be honest, we've already started shipping. So we've shipped our first samples to Google, so Google Cloud Platform, and I anticipate soon that we'll be shipping to more, but in volume will be early next year. So when I think about SAP HANA, I think of our breadth and our partnerships, especially with here at the HP, I have to admit, I used to be a really big fan of SGI. Well, HP bought them. Now, HP is actually one of the best and the biggest that I know that scales. So if you want to scale and you think 24 terabytes for your HANA instance is too small, go to HP. They have a solution that goes to 48 terabytes. If you want to scale out, HP has solutions that scale beyond 48. More importantly, if you're considering power for whatever reason, the TCO on Intel across the board is up to 33% better than anything that comes from IBM. So historically, we've always added more performance. If we go back 2 years, we released the 8890 processor, which is the E7 V4, and then about 6 months later, we released a new one. The 94 was about 50% faster. Now what we did with the last platform is we increased the performance by about 50%, like I showed in the first proof point. However, we took away some of the memory DIMM slots. Now for you guys that have 2 or 4 or 6 terabyte databases, that was no big deal because you could still host it on a 4-socket system, or maybe 8. But for those that were above like the 10, 12 terabytes, it made a difference. Now what we're actually doing is we're keeping the same amount of DIMM slots when Intel Optane DC persistent memory comes out on Cascade Lake platform early next year, but we're going to have larger DIMM sizes. Quick question here. Scott, you got some tickets? Scott, where'd you go? We need tickets, Scott.
I have a ticket.
So, quick question. What is the largest DDR4 DIMM size you can buy today? Anybody know? Nobody knows? Oh, okay, I'll give you an what is it, sir? How much? 22 gigabytes?
No, absolutely incorrect. Here's the
He
ticket.
has one of the numbers right. It's 128 gigabytes is the biggest one you can buy today. Well, the Intel Optane DC persistent memory comes out, you could buy a DIMM that's 4 times that size, 512 or a half a terabyte memory DIMM.
Wow.
So if we go back, so that's pretty big.
Yeah, wow.
Half terabyte goes in a DIMM slot, looks like a DIMM, feels like a DIMM, but there's actually some cool features that aren't DIMM features. So historically, we've always increased the memory support, and this is not in the Intel platform, but this is for analytics back on the E7. So if you buy the new processor, it supports up to 3 terabytes. For transaction, it went from 2 to 6. And this gives you kind of a historical roadmap. Like I said, the last one we kind of went down per processor, the left being supported by SAP HANA, the light yellow being supported by the Intel processor. So when Cascade Lake comes out, we're going to go back to 3 or bigger, okay? So when you look at the cloud ecosystem, we have multiple partners, but I just wanted to point out that Intel's in multiple spaces. One thing I did want to say on the cloud, a lot of people think moving to the cloud is going to save a lot of hardware cost, a lot of CapEx costs. But what I'm hearing from some of the SAP people that actually do the implementation, their services team, is that the services that they see in the cloud aren't the same that you get like from HP. So they're not getting the reports that they're used to getting. They're not getting all the data. So be careful if you're going to move to the public cloud on HANA, because the reporting mechanism that your company is used to is not going to be the same as you would get with like HP. Okay, let's talk about Intel Optane DC persistent memory. Okay, what's the biggest size DIMM you can buy today? 128. What's the biggest DIMM size you can buy when Intel Optane DC persistent memory comes out? Half a terabyte. Okay? So this is a new DIMM. It's based on what we call 3D crosspoint technology, and it fits in a DIMM slot. Okay, so it looks and smells like a DIMM. Most of the tech guys, you guys are probably software engineers, IT architects, maybe a couple DBAs. The system administrators are just going to call it the Intel DIMM. But what you need to know is that Intel DIMM has persistency, not just a bigger size. So you can think of that DIMM as basically a solid state drive that you happen to put into a memory slot. Okay? So that's where it gets revolutionary. Now most people that run HANA have huge storage configurations for disaster recovery, for high availability. You don't want to have any downtime. Now these larger DIMM sizes, it's going to give you an opportunity to consolidate multiple HANA instances. It's going to give you an opportunity to rethink how you do your replication of systems and to rethink how you do disaster recovery. Okay? But more importantly, we're going to bring down the cost. If you look at a DIMM cost today, 32 gigabyte is the cheapest per gig, whereas 128 gigabyte is very expensive. Memory vendors are making a lot of money because it's like 4 or 5 or 6 times as expensive per gig once you go to the morgues. So we're going to drive down the cost curve on that. So that's something to look forward to. So we're going to bring lower TCO to your platform. So this is actually a 4-socket configuration. And like I said, we're going to go back to 3 terabytes or more. Whereas today, when you buy the system, you're limited. Okay, so this is a quick configuration. So like I said, everybody is just who has HANA is just waiting for persistent memory DIMMs because SAP has already done the work. It's already, code freeze was back in March, it released in April, and in HANA 2 they did not support persistent memory. So these two green ones are DRAM, and you'd have storage on solid state drives, as for example. Now, with HANA 2.3, when our DIMMs come out, you'll still have DRAM, and you'll have some persistent memory. But since persistent memory is so much bigger, a lot of your storage needs disappear. Okay? So Hasso-Plattner talked about, this was the proof point that he mentioned when he discussed the top 5 innovations that are happening for HANA Data Management Suite. So specifically, this is an internal SAP benchmark where in-house they tested on solid-state drives. So when you shut down the database, it's still going to take the same amount of time. Then you do your maintenance, right? So this is usually like your Saturday or Sunday when no one is buying or transacting or doing analytics, right? When everyone's at home, right? So, but when you come up, since your columnar data store is all in persistent memory, you don't have to go back to the SAN. You don't have to go back to the storage. The data is on the DIMM still. So this is actually a 6 terabyte instance. So it still takes, it's not instantaneous. It's not like turning on the light switch. It still takes some time to do the reads and to realize the database is there and stable. So that's why it went from 50 minutes to 4 minutes. And I've heard a stat from SAP, they actually did an analysis for every hour of downtime on HANA, customers lose $100,000. So right there, you just bought an HP system. Fully configured 8 socket. You can put your next HANA instance on. So beyond that, we continue to do some work on machine learning. Today there's about 96 or so predictive analytics libraries that run very well on Xeon. And we are doing some collaboration. There's actually a demo in booth talking about machine learning on TensorFlow. And so this just kind of gives you, we've been working since batch days. Today we're in memory, and we continue to innovate with SAP and HP. And if you want to learn more, come to intel.com/SAP or learn more about persistent memory, go to sap.com/persistent-memory. And turn it back to you. I guess you guys want a prize?
Yeah, we're going to give away a prize right now.
I'm not going back to acting though, so don't
You
worry.
did great. Can we have a big round of applause for Tim Allen? Thank you so much for coming over. We appreciate that. Also, Tim, do you have to run back to your booth, or do you have a